Louis Quilico was one of the leading operatic baritones of the 20th century. His sudden passing on July 15th, 2000 was a great loss to the musical world. Quilico performed at many of the world's great opera houses: Covent Garden, the Paris Opera, the Bolshoi, and the Vienna Staatsoper, to name only a few. He was a stalwart of the Metropolitan Opera, appearing nearly 300 times over 25 consecutive years. At the Met, he sang under the baton of James Levine, Zubin Mehta, Richard Bonynge and Claudio Abbado, and alongside tenors including Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, Joan Vickers and José Carreras, and sopranos Joan Sutherland, Renata Tebaldi, Renata Scotto, and Beverly Sills. Louis Quilico was an ideal interpreter of the great Italian and French composers, but it was his defining portrayal of Rigoletto, the hunchbacked jester in Verdi's tragic masterpiece, that won him international acclaim, as well as the nickname Mr. Rigoletto. He sang the role more than 500 times, the last being at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa in September of 1994. After his retirement from the operatic stage in 1998, he continued to perform, touring extensively with his wife, the celebrated pianist Christina Petrowska Quilico. Together they made 4 recordings and a teaching video, and collaborated on the book Mr. Rigoletto in Conversation with Louis Quilico. In this book, Quilico shared his views on singing, on opera, and on his signature role, Rigoletto. He also talked about his own personally devised vocal techniques, sharing them with a new generation of singers. What is missing in the printed version of these conversations is Quilico's own voice and his unique personality. In these recordings, we hear him speak in his own words, with his own voice, unfiltered and unedited. Speaking personally, baritone Louis Quilico, Mr. Rigoletto, in conversation with Christina Petrowska Quilico. In this conversation, Louis' thoughts on the study of singing and on the importance of discovering your own vocal technique, as well as some memories of triumphs in Russia and at Covent Garden.
What was the opera that you felt you got your biggest ovation? Was it Rigoletto? Or Era 2 from Ballo Maschera?
No, I would say
Rigoletto?
Oh yes, Rigoletto. Rigoletto was the opera where most ovation I ever had.
And where would that be?
Well, for instance, when I don't know if I said it in Moscow when I did it, that they didn't start it to applaud. Did I say that? You don't remember? That there's so many things we said. But anyway, I will repeat it. And well, when I went to Moscow, it was the time when they shut down the U-2. You remember the spy plane?
Yeah, so that would be about 1962.
About that, yes. And all of a sudden, I finished the first act, and the first thing I know, in fact, it was not the Rigoletto, it was Aida. We finished the triumph scene, and all of a sudden, I tell you what, it was crazy. All of a sudden, they open up the curtain for at least 40, maybe 1 minute. There's not one applause. The curtain is open, chorus is there, the orchestra is in the orchestra pit, the public is there, and I'm wondering, well, what is happening? What am I going to do? I must have sang bad because, and all of a sudden I became very panicky, and all of a sudden one person went, dash. Oh my God. All of a sudden it became so powerful, and it was the first time I could hear boom, 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 like the Russian does, you know? And all of a sudden somebody came and pushed me in the back, that I should be by myself. And all of a sudden I fell on the floor, on my knees, and I cried. It was quite an experience, huh? Yeah. And, but one of my, how can I say, one of my greatest
What about Covent Garden? You had mentioned that there was an ovation in Lucia, and my question is, since you're not the soprano, why was there such an ovation?
Well, you know, sometimes a soprano makes a big thing, but sometimes, once in a while, baritone does it very big too, you know. Talking about that ovation, I sang only one performance of Lucia at Covent Garden. They had already done, at that moment, something like about maybe 25, 30 performances. And there was always another baritone or tenor or anything like that. But the night I came in, the tenor was Alain Vanzo, the soprano Joan Sutherland, and myself. And we started the performance, and it seems that, according to what I hear after the performance, that there was something very special about that evening, and God knows why. But they told us that the three voices matched so beautifully that it was incredible. Anyway, we came to the moment of the sextet, and we did the sextet, we sang it. After we finished, the public started to applaud tremendously. And all of a sudden, the conductor, when he saw like that, he wanted to keep on going. And all of a sudden, he started the orchestra, and the public started to scream even more, louder, and bravo, bravo, bravo. And it went on. And I don't know how many times, but there was quite a few times that he tried to start, but there was no way to start. And all of a sudden, the public started to scream, "We want a bis, we want a bis." And at Covent Garden, in those years, it was against the, you don't call that the law, but anyway, it was against the grain that you should do a bis in the opera. But that night, there was nothing we could do. Anyway, it went on, and all of a sudden the conductor, Sir Pritchard, looked at Joan and he says, well, what are we going to do? And she's on the stage, and she looked at him, she doesn't know exactly. Then she turns towards the tenor, then she turns towards me. When it came to my turn, I said, oh, please, don't ask me, do what you want. If you want to make a bis, we'll do it. Finally, she went, and we had to bis the sextet of Lucia. And the history of Covent Garden, only twice there was a bis. 10 years before, there was Callas and Stignani singing Norma with the same conductor, Pritchard. And 10 years later, we came in with the Lucia, with the same conductor, Pritchard, and we had to bis the sextet of Lucia. It might be, I would say, then after we finished, there must have been about 1,000 people outside waiting for us to sign autograph. Well, just to give you an idea, we finished the performance, and I would say we still took we were taking curtain bow after 45 minutes. It was longer. The longest act we had done that night, it was taking the curtain bow than to sing. And then I was asking to the public, I says, to a lot of people while I was saying I says, why did you make us repeat the sextet? They said, listen, when God is on the stage, you ask him to repeat himself. And that's what we did tonight. It was incredible, I have to say one thing. It was an incredible evening. But the funniest thing about it, one of the greatest evenings I ever heard in my life, and I don't want to brag about it or anything like that, but one of the greatest evening, point of view of public and everything, there was not even one newspaperman that was there to mention it. It was written in a book, because I think there was a gentleman that wrote a book about Covent Garden or something, and he mentioned it in it. But that's all. There was no mention about whatsoever about that famous performance.
What was one of your great inspirations vocally?
My great inspiration?
Mm-hmm. Was it that you just liked to sing, you liked to hear the voice, or did you hear a particular performance? I know you liked Leonard Warren.
Well, I think Warren was really my inspiration more than anything else, because he had something in his voice that was so incredible, and he was my patron saint, you know. I always remember him, and I have to say one thing: there's something similar to his voice to my voice. I did not try to make my voice like his, but it was very close to mine, and it was a very good model for me. It was wonderful.
Do you think maybe students aren't doing that enough? Voice students, they're relying on coaches, they're relying on certain vocal teachers and vocal techniques or schools rather than being self-taught, as basically you developed your own technique?
Today, I have to say that is the big problem with pupils. Pupils expect to have the teacher that's going to hold their hand till doomsday. You got some people that they have teachers, and the first thing you know, 20 years, 25 years later, they're still going to see their teacher. I don't criticize that you should have somebody to help you, but you have to come at a point where you have to understand your own instrument. Because let's face it this way: this is an instrument like another, and that is the big problem. Very often, people have no conception whatsoever of their own instrument, and that is a real tragedy. Because what is happening when comes the moment that they are in big trouble? What do they do to get out of that trouble? They don't have the foggiest idea. And I can name you the greatest singers, I will not mention them, but if these people would have known, as a younger people, they would have known about their instrument. Oh, they were very dramatic, they were incredible on the stage and everything, but when it came to the point of vocal, they were null. And that is the big problem. A person that walks on the stage has to be able to definitely explain. Should be like that, but it's not like that. Because I would say 95% of the singers, they don't really know what is the technique. And that is a big tragedy, because when you're in trouble, you have to get out. You cannot get out. And you know, it's not written in books. It's not given to you through an example or anything like that. No, it's yourself who has to discover it. If you cannot discover it, you're in big trouble.
You yourself only had a few formal lessons.
Well, I would say altogether, really, from a real teacher, I would say maybe 40. I had a good ear that was listening, that I would say, but I was the master. I mean, when I say this, it's not because I want to brag about myself, but you have to become the master of your own instrument. Why do you walk? You know how to walk. You know how to run. That's exactly the same thing. You have to know how to walk, how to run. Because it's a thing, it's all inside, it's not outside. And it's not written in books. What books is there, it's like when you read a book, well, your imagination work. Because otherwise you wouldn't read that book. Because that book would become very nothing. Because your mind is traveling in a stratosphere that it helps you to understand what is happening. And you see it. That is the point. You see things. But when you sing, you don't see nothing. I'm sorry to say it. You have to feel, you have to see. Not with the eyes, but with your soul, with your mind. And that is the thing that's very difficult to arrive, to achieve, and be a master with.
It's not enough to have a vision. It's not enough to say this phrase has to be legato or sing more musically. You have to know how technically to approach it.
A legato, a diminuendo, a crescendo has nothing to do with the technique, vocal technique. And this is the point. We always think that these crescendo and all that stuff is done with the support of the breath. Yeah, but how is the breath is working? How is the chord is working? What is in your mind? These are the things that are not always there, and this is the tragedy of it.
What about these so-called famous master classes? What's your opinion on that? Are they valuable to the young singer to have an opinion from a master? And will these masters actually divulge some of their secrets or not?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. Divulge. It's very difficult to divulge because the thing is, it's too personal. How do you divulge to a person your love towards another person? It's only you who feels that, and that is the point. And for instance, it's interesting to watch these master class. But in the master class, the professor, the man who does a master class, or the woman, does not really have the time. Will give you how to do a certain phrasing or all that. Yeah, but in general, at 99%, they will never touch the voice because they don't have time. Now, can they touch the voice? That's one thing. I don't know. But it's very difficult to touch the voice.
Can there be a good vocal teacher who does not sing on the stage, on the operatic stage? Can there be somebody who knows the technique well enough but actually can't sing?
If you are a psychologist, maybe you would be better as a teacher than sometimes a teacher himself. It's because the thing is, you have to translate to someone, and this is the problem. Voice teacher generally make you do vocalize, and vocalize doesn't give you what you want. Because you see, the vocalize, it's an action. It's a thing that is an happening, yes, but what happened before that, and that is the thing that's very difficult. Because there's too many things involved. You see, the piano or the violin, the piano, the construction of the piano is there. First of all, if you start to think about it, if we go back, now the piano, you go, and all of a sudden they want to get a tree. They cut it. Then they put it in some gauge, and they made the form of the piano. Then after that, they came with a piece of metal, and they made that piece of metal, the string, everything. That figure one thing, the material thing of the piano. And us singers, we don't want to go to that. And I'm sorry to say it. That's exactly what we are. Naturally, we don't think of wood and all that stuff, yes. But you have to think of certain things, mental things, feeling things that we have to involve. How to use the breath, how to use the chord. Even more simple than that, ask any young artist, any young voice student, how do they stand? Not one of them, since I teach, there's not one of them that can tell me why is it the reason why you have to know how to stand when you sing. And that, I'm sorry to say it, I will repeat it till doomsday. You don't know how to stand, forget about it.
So the answer to the question is yes, you should be a singer to actually give the techniques. You can learn repertoire from a piano culture, from a conductor, but to actually have the experiences on stage that you can relate to the students, you should have had some of those experiences yourself.
Well, you know, there's one thing that I would like one of these days to meet a psychologist or psychiatrist that could tell me how do you train the brains to be able to have not the word but the feeling before the word. And that is the thing that is all very, very, very difficult. Because what we do in singing, no, we make the word, but we don't care what is happening before. Your thought has to indicate to you, has to bring you, has to make you go in a sphere that is not the usual sphere. Like I said, you go by feeling. How do you train yourself to try to find a feeling? And that is the thing that's very difficult. And if you don't train yourself for that, how can you really? Some people, there's an automatism. All of a sudden they're born. In the old days, there were some singers. They would wake up in the morning, and all of a sudden there they were singers, because they had that feeling for it. But how many times does happen?
But is the answer to the question yes or no?
I have to say one thing. It could be that once in a great while you might meet somebody that is not even a voice teacher, that would be a voice teacher and don't know how to sing. But the only thing is, if he doesn't know how to sing, how can he relate to
that's my question. That's
I know, but I don't think it exists.
No. Well, it doesn't for piano.
It exists for piano?
No, I feel that with students, if the pianist, myself, if I haven't had the experience of playing with orchestra on stage, I can't teach a piano concerto because I can only teach it from one angle. I can't teach it from the whole atmosphere, acoustical, mental, and physical, because it's a whole different ball game to sit down and play with an orchestra. And if you haven't gone through it, you really don't know what you're talking about. So that was my comment.
I'll tell you frankly, the only thing that I would say that maybe some people could help you to discover your inner physical being, and not the outside, no, inside.
Well, there are several techniques, I think, from acting teachers, the Alexander technique or whatever, to help you breathe, but those are just general, that anybody can take, or the how-to books to how to build confidence, how to improve your tennis game, how to improve your skiing, how to improve your music, but voice is quite different, and especially opera singers.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. Voice is different and not that different. But the only thing is, in general, 95% of 98% people taking voice, they think, well, to sing is to make a big noise, to push, the hair comes out, and everything. What is really the bottom line of it? You know, we speak. Who is the person that use the speech as a voice lesson? They don't. And that is that is for me the big trouble today. The people, they have to know what is the sensation. Sensation is so important in it. And it's a sensation of not only one thing, but there's so many little things that are involved. And when I hear a voice teacher telling me, "Oh, please never talk about the chords," I want to kill them. Because the chords, between the chords and the breath, you don't choose the breath, you choose the chord. It's the chord that makes everything. It's like the violin. You don't press too much on the chord that you're playing on. You see, the point is, if you look at the piano, for instance, you press the note, you go bang, but it's not the hammer that you hit that keeps on repeating. No, it has been done. And our chords are exactly the same thing. If they're too tense, they're not good. They don't function.
What about schools? Are there any opera schools? Do I dare ask about Canada and the Canadian Opera Company?
I would tell you frankly, school are not my favorite subject. Because there's a lot of them that people come out of this school, yes, but they come out, and it's when they come out that they become singers. They have to learn that trade after. And that's I find that very treacherous, because I find that it's too bad, because the people, they go to a school to learn how to operate a voice, and the first thing you know, they go to that school and they don't know how to operate the voice, and simple as that.
And then their voices are overused and ruined by the time they get out of the school. Does that happen?
Well, I will not say they're overused. The point is, very often, it's not used. That is the point. You see, they don't have time to learn about the voice, and that is the tragedy about it. They should know from A to Z. It's a very special thing, and I feel very sorry there. And I'm giving up more and more teaching for that reason. Because even the students themselves, they don't like to hear. They come to you and all of a sudden you say, "Listen, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work." What happened? They make you a face, and they rather go to somebody else that's going to say, "Oh, make a vocalize," blah, 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 blah. And the first thing you know, "Oh, it's so beautiful." Don't expect compliment about your voice.
Is there hope for young singers? Is there hope for opera? You think it's going to survive in today's
Well,
times?
it's an art form that will definitely survive, because the thing is, more it goes, more there is people, and more people there is, more there is some of them that they have a special instinct, you know? And I think that's the reason why opera will survive, for that reason. But it's not because the school will be there to really make these people.
What about contemporary opera, which is so popular right now, all the little opera companies that are cropping up?
Well, I'm going to tell you the reason why the contemporary opera survive, for one reason. Some of it are good, but some others, they're not very good. And I think the good one might survive, but I still, when you figure one thing, that all of a sudden you come to a Verdi, there ain't many contemporary music that can come close to that.
Do you ever get sick and tired of singing an opera?
I don't know, definitely not. because it was a master that wrote that.
Even famous arias, do you ever get sick and tired of singing Era 2?
No, definitely. Never in your life you can, because it's so beautifully written. Who are you to judge? You know, it's like when you go and pick a rose once, and you go another time, you pick another rose, and it's exactly the beautiful rose that you want. You get tired to pick up a rose? That's exactly the same thing. You know, it's a thing that is, it makes your life much more wonderful to be able to live that life, you know. And I think Naya is a little bit like that. It's something that is very, it's spiritual.